Hi everyone, I'm Pixologic Daisuke. I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna try to stream all in English today, and I'll be sculpting a Santa Claus girl. What, Santa girl? Yeah, Santa girl. And from my last stream, I did a model where I made a character sit down on a chair. I can show you where I ended last time. It was like this, right? And I was thinking to myself, I only have like 4 hours because I can do one stream per 2 weeks, and one stream is like 2 hours only. And I was thinking to myself, how am I going to do 4 hours of sculpt, including all the chair details and stuff like those? And I came to the conclusion of making the characters a bit more simple and making the outside things more simple. So I just made a box like this and reposed the character a bit, and I just used some like simple tools to make some base for the boots, and it took me around like 2 hours, and I said, yeah, should be fine for this stream. So I'm starting to refine what I did outside of the stream. So this bag of presents doesn't really look like a present at all. So I'm gonna add some stuff to this. And also, like, I did a couple of like sculpting on the body, but since I did some like really quick hashing, I think some of the stuff may not really look pretty. So I'm gonna adjust those kind of like stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna start my stream from here. By the way, I just made a box with like removing the top, and so if you look at how I made it, I'm just applying a dynamic to the this kind of like shell without the top. So it's really simple. And I'm gonna add ribbons at the end, but for now, like, let's focus on the character itself. Hey Ashley, hey Spicer. So I did really simple like designs of her like dress, but yeah, I need to like adjust this kind of stuff. Like for example, this basic dress is just adding dynamics to like add thickness, and it's one-sided. And if I move or like slightly tweak these kind of stuff, like this, then like you don't want this to like be, you don't like, you want this like white stuff to like follow around the shape. So I'm gonna like temporarily delete this, well, permanently I guess, and then like apply those kind of like details later on. I was just checking what kind of like designs it might look nice to have. So let's start with the bag. I'm just gonna make this all gray so I can see it better, and just start sculpting the details. I just need the initial like folds first, and then I'm gonna sculpt the details of the folds and getting the overall shape. The other day I was like looking for good ways to like improve my cloth sculpting capability, and I saw a tip covering those kind of topics and mentioning the XYZ method, which is making X like this, and then like adding a bit more like standard. I have my Japanese keyboard for some reason. Yeah. So like adding X kind of shape, adding the Y kind of shape, like this, but more exaggerated. And then if you have a Z kind of shape like this, but more like exaggerated, you get like basically all the kind of like cloth like folds you want. So basically you want those kind of like stuff on the model first, and then you can like go to using substandard, I guess, and then get the shapes done. Hello, 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 Bishra. My brain is like pretty much dead because it's really hard for me to like switch between Japanese and English in the same day. Like getting used to like talking in Japanese and then switching back to English it takes a bit more time. So if I sound a bit like uncomfortable, that's the reason why. It's fine. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions related to ZBrush, ZBrush Core, ZBrush Core Mini, even Japan related figurines, just ask away. I need to think about what kind of like model I'm gonna make after. Well, I just finished the armor character I was doing for the Japanese stream, and like I was wondering what kind of like stuff to make, but I really don't have any idea right now. If you have any suggestions, well, it's gonna be done in Japanese, so you can follow up visually, I guess, but it may be hard to follow. So if you have any suggestions, just let me know. Next week's stream, I'm gonna make some like well, it's in Japanese, but like I'm gonna try to make a bike cloth. So rider's suit. What do you call those? Yeah, the ones you wear when you ride a bike. And there was a request by a person who wants to make something, and he was like asking tips, so I'm gonna make that. Then after that, I'm gonna, yeah, my first stream will be after the New Year's, and I'm wondering what kind of stuff would be appropriate. Making seasonal stuff is kind of hard because like I was planning to make the Santa Claus character, this character, like 2 months before December, and now it's like already December. Like time flies by really quickly. Oh boy, talking and sculpting is really hard. I need to get used to it. Like, I can do it in Japanese, not really that hard. Like, but if you are trying to do it with your like second language and like do the sculpting at the same time, it's sometimes hard. I'm kind of impressed of like people who can do these kind of stuff explaining stuff in English, which is not their like first language, and like doing a very good job at that, and then like doing a very good sculpt over it. I don't know what to put in the bag. Maybe some like square stuff, maybe football. So something sphere, something like a triangle. Well, we can think about it. Hello, Alex. I was thinking about what kind of like design this character should have, and I was thinking maybe non-symmetric would be nice. But my second thought would be, shouldn't that take too much time? And like I was like conflicted in a way, but yeah, it should be fine. Like we can do it. So it's mainly like sculpting cloth and getting the base shapes and like thinking about designs, I guess. Hey from Denmark, hey. Hey from Japan. I've been to most of the Europe countries and Denmark was really nice. Is Daisuke? Yes. Yes, it's me. Oh boy, I made the fingers really weird. Yikes. I really love this like topological masking feature really well. Like it masks off a part of the mesh, and then you can like even blur it like this, and then you can change it, move it around, get the shapes. If you don't like it, you can go to snake hook, go to button masking, and then like tweak it. It's really easy. Daisuke, you've been a big help. I've been making a model in anime kind of style, and I've been watching your older guides to help me with the process. It's been oh, thanks. What kind of stuff you were making? Oh, I realized all this time I've been saying your name wrong during the streams, and I sincerely apologize. Well, it's it's hard to say a Japanese name correctly. Well, I'm kind of used to like people reading my name in English style, so I call it Daisuke, but if you pronounce it in Japanese, it's a bit different, but like it's a tiny detail. I don't really care. Like I think the people in Pixologic office asked me the first asked me like how to pronounce your name, and like I was like call whatever you like, and they were like it's hard to pronounce. Like, do you have a mentor? No. I don't really have the time to teach people, I guess. Like I barely have the time to actually teach myself. So is it Daisuke? Daisuke is the correct kind of like pronunciation, but I don't really care. Daisuke, Daisuke, fine. Call whatever you like. Japanese has so much like vowels in their language because aiueo is the basic vowels, and you combine them with like other letters. So you like, for example, my screen name is Kizaki Aoi, and that's like I was like posting like I was like when I was talking to a streamer who is doing like Eve Online games, and like he was like watching at the chat, and like he said like, how do you pronounce that name, and like he was really confused. And I get it, like it's hard. I only speak English and I barely get by it. Yeah. Well, like I was thrown into like England local school when I was like I think it was 6, and like until like when I was like 11. Like, so I was in London for 5 years, and I was like forced to learn that language. And like the first year was like really miserable. Like I barely spoke some language. And the second year was kind of the same thing, but you get by like speaking like small, like simple languages and like simple terms or like words. And then like year 3, people started like poking fun at your like past tense and like present tense and stuff like those. And then it became like, oh, you can't even speak English. And and then if I come back to Japan and like they can't speak English, and they bully me for like being able to like speak English for some reason, and like it was like pretty miserable. Hello Dusky, how you doing? Fine. Face animation. Hey. Well, Japanese people kind of like pick up on people who have a different skill than others, so pretty common, I guess. Oh, by the way, I'm 100% Japanese, so if you're confused about my nationality and stuff, like I'm 100% like my both parents are Japanese, so. But I speak British kind of like pronunciation, and like because of the Japanese education system, and I watch too much YouTube, I'm speaking English kind of pronunciation plus the British kind of like pronunciation. So if you find it weird, like, yeah. Oh, thanks. Oh boy. Forgot about the hands inside. I usually just ignore them because like it's not really significant when you have a glove on top of it, so like I sometimes even isolate the case, so there's not much like visibility on this one. That should be fine. Thanks. Do you think work as an anime modeler is collapsed, or are there always opportunities? Well, depends. Like, if your question is like, I want to work for a Japanese company, do I have the opportunity to do it? The first thing you are required is to like have a communication skill. So people will need to speak in that specific language. So especially in Japan, you need to speak Japanese. And then plus if you have the skills, then it's better. But if you don't have the language skills, which is necessary, you need to have a significant amount of like extra skills that like compensate your like language barrier or something like that. So if that question is for like working for Japanese companies, yeah, you have opportunities, but like if you don't really have the skills to like speak or like do communications in Japanese, or like be, well, at least trying, it will be really hard to get a job. I think there was a couple of like YouTubers who are like really into Japanese animation, talking about like advices on like working or like finding a job in Japan, and they were saying like, we are YouTubers, what are you asking? And like they are YouTubers, and they are like covering the topic of like Japanese cultures, but it's hard for them to find a job in Japan as well. So they specialize, like the reason why they can make a living in Japan is they specialize in like covering topics about Japanese cultures. So that's one thing to like be able to do, or like a way to live in Japan, but sometimes it's hard to get a job, at least. So he's saying it surprises me so much. Or like, there's so much surprising things. Well, for anime models, depends on the quality of the anime model. For example, I saw a 3ds Max user who is using specifically, well, he's working for an animation company in Japan, and he showed off a model which is using pencil renders. And he showed a model which is for a hobby, so you can take a look at this. And like, he's sharing a 3ds Max file. If you have the access to 3ds Max, you can take a look. But you can download the trial version and take a look as well. But like, he has a specific like plugin he needs to like remember to use for like making a toon render, which is called Pencil 4, and he is like making the model specifically so it shows up well on that render. So yeah, and like most of the Western skill is kind of useless in a way. Well, the topology aspect, like rigging aspect, is like fine, it works. But if you're like specifically wanting to work for a Japanese company in the animation industry, you need to learn these kind of like specific modeling techniques, and they use 3ds Max mainly. And yeah, I almost moved to Japan to build an anime, well, a YouTube-like platform. Amazing place in Japan, and great people. Yeah, we have a couple of like companies who are making like platforms like YouTube, and the main one is Nico Nico, which is handled by Dwango, I guess. And yeah, and it's a huge company and they are successful. I used to do streams on that service, but like sculpting in general, I don't really get a huge amount of people watching me, so oh, it's Dwango, okay. Oh, by the way, if you have access to Netflix, there's a good animation made specifically by a Japanese company. No, not this one. Netflix. If you can take a look at this, and it's called Blam. It was done by a Japanese company. I think it was Polygon Pictures, if I recall correctly. And it's using a similar kind of like animation rendering tool. They they custom made themselves. And you can see the quality of like the animation they like require you to do. I'm creating an amazing tool, ZBrush, and any other software for live streaming. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think more people will be doing live streaming. But the sad part is like the people who are doing really creative stuff doesn't really get a huge amount of like view counts, I guess. I don't know why, but like some of the stuff is like really fascinating, but like they don't really have the like view counts they deserve, and I wonder why that's the case. It's kind of sad. But yeah, I get it. Like, I think most of the people prefer entertainment-wise more than the actual like creative side, I guess. How do you feel the first time you streamed? I didn't really think differently compared. Like, I did my like stream like a while ago when I was in university, and I think I did a stream because my friend was doing a stream, and he was doing figurines, and I started doing figurines in high school, and then like I had like I was doing some like traditional sculpting, and I just needed some equipment to do the stream. So when I was in university, I got the equipment and I started streaming. So I didn't really think much. Like, I just wanted to stream, I just wanted to make something, and it feels nice that when you're making something and you're on a time limit, but like somebody who's watching you, you know, like you need to be on the chair, but like at least somebody's watching you doing something, and then it feels nice to have that kind of feeling. It's kind of unique when you do streams, like I don't know for other people, but I don't really do it for like explaining all the things. I do it for like kind of for myself. Do you like Jujutsu Kaisen? Yeah, the animation is really nice. Like, I started watching it from the anime, and I didn't really read the manga. But the anime was really nice. That like, I watched it on Netflix around like when the 5th episode came out, I guess. And yeah, like, it's really nice. Like, the story is like deep and like well constructed. Can I ask you something? Is this type of CGI job popular in Japan? Are there many people in Japan interested in 3D? I think I mentioned this in the last stream. The biggest 3D industry in Japan is pachinko industries. So pachinko is a kind of like gambling, but you have like videos playing on the screen, and you play some games and stuff, and those kind of like companies need movies, videos, game aspect, and you have the actual like hardware itself. You need to do programming and those kind of stuff, and there's a huge business around those kind of like 3D uses. Also, there is a big industry related to game industries, and I think game industry will be the second or the main one in Japan, if you exclude pachinkos. And yeah, that's the biggest two. And then the third would be, I think, for figurines, and then especially for ZBrush, would be figurine industries. So if you're talking about this specific kind of like model I'm making, it's mainly I'm using the a figurine kind of way to approach my ZBrush sculpting technique. So if you're looking for these kind of like industries, yeah, like it is popular in Japan, but like it's not a big business. It's not really that huge. But yeah, it is a business. Being 3D generalist has a wide range of possibilities. Well, depends on like what kind of stuff you can do. Being a generalist is good if you're good at all those kind of stuff, but usually you need to stick to a couple of things, because it's going to be really hard for like, it depends. Like, if you're working for a business which is smaller, then you need to cover all the aspect of the business, and then generalist is the way to go. But if you're working for a company which is a bit bigger, and then you need to do a specialized task, and then that'll be more specialized way to like go about things. And I think like it depends. Like you can get more skills if you specialize in one thing than like being a generalist and like trying to cover all the things. But it depends on what you want to have as a skill set. So like for example, I wanted to do sculpting because I wanted to do figurines. So my specialization is just sculpting and modeling in general. I don't really do animation pose or like T-pose or like sending models to games. So that's one kind of like specialization. But if you want to do some like movies, videos by yourself, then you need to kind of be a generalist. If do you create 3D figurines from concept already made from other people? Who is this character? So this character, I don't have any concept art. I just like gathered around a bunch of like images and like thinking on the fly, like how can I approach this? So for example, this glove is like asymmetric, so it's not symmetry. And I was thinking, would it be interesting if it's like not symmetrical? Same for the ribbons. So I'm designing the characters as I'm like sculpting. And this is the good thing about ZBrush. You can like design characters or like think about the characters on the fly as you go along. You don't really need images to actually well, you need references, but you don't really need a direct image to like work from. And I think that's a good thing, and what I like the best about ZBrush. But I do sometimes, well, if I'm doing it for a hobby, I usually do fan art. So usually there's an illustration or a character or from somewhere or a game or anime, and then I start making those kind of stuff from images or references. But this one is original. Would you recommend a book to learn model in shonen style? I don't really I can't really think of a book that covers the shonen style of figurines. I don't know why, but like most of the figurine book is like 90% covering the topic for Bishoujo figurines, which is more cute girls and stuff, moe kind of style. I don't really think there's a Japanese, even there's no Japanese book covering those topics, but like the techniques are the same. Like it depends on like what kind of like style you want from those kinds of stuff. There is people who are doing shonen styles, but it's not a huge market compared to the Bishoujo figurines, I guess. Yeah, there should be a book. Like, if you're a publisher, think about kind of like picking up an artist and like making one book around it. You prefer demons? Oh, I totally forgot about, like, I was making a Devil May Cry sculpt like 1 year, like 2 years ago, and like I totally forgot about the existence up to this point. How do you go about creating those thin meshes of the cloth and gloves? Last time I tried Dynamesh with cloths, it burned holes through my mesh. Well, like, it depends, but like I usually just open up the edges like this, or like close them So for example, if I go to modify topology and then press close, it's going to be easier for you to like modify. And then afterwards you can like after you modified all the like folds like this, for example, like you can even delete this part, and then like you can go to dynamic subdivisions, dynamics, remove smooth, add thickness to it. You can tweak the offset to like just do the thickness inside, something like this. This is showing up on the screen because it has the inside like in the mesh, but you can eliminate by smoothing the inside part, and then you can apply it at the end, or like depends on what kind of like model you're making. If you're making a game model, you don't really need a cap, or like you don't really need a thickness to it, because it's going to be one-sided anyways. Sometimes you will need a double-sided on this part, but not all of it, because like if you're going to move it around, the internal mesh will be distracting, and like it's going to be a mess. So it depends on what you want to do. So this cloth itself is the same as well. So this has dynamic subdivisions applied. So if I press dynamic subdivisions and go to thickness, you can assign thickness to it. Like I can change it dynamically until I'm happy with the final result, and like being able to like be satisfied with the sculpt, and then you can press apply or like even sculpt on top of it. So that's the new feature which was added in 2021, and the feature I think I love the most right now. It's really easy for me to like change the design on the fly and then think about the thickness later on. Because like for example, this skirt right here is using the same thing, and if you want to like move around the skirt with the thickness applied first, it's going to be really tough. Do you sell your figurines? I don't really sell my figurines outside of the event, but yeah, I do sell them on Wonder Festival, which is a garage kit event in Japan, and you can ask the license holders to like have permission to like sell them on that event day, and you can actually sell the models that you made on that day specifically and on the location only. And like in Japan, that's a thing. So I do those like making fan art things and being able to sell them. I don't know about making a garage kit out of this one, but yeah, I don't know. If it turns out great and like worth the extra effort, then yeah, maybe. But for now, like, let's see. If you work for a real client, can you estimate how much time would you finish to generate 3D figurines? Do you have to work fast? Depends on who you are working for. So for example, if you're working for a company who is making a cheap figurine lineup, so this well, let's say this company is selling a figurine under $100, and they want a short time to like actually produce the figurines, then you're not gonna spend too much time on that. So it's gonna be less than 40 hours to actually get the general shape and then get permission and then actually split the models or like actually tweak the models. But yeah, 40 hours is fine. Like you can do most of this stuff in like 40 hours if you start from a base mesh and then like do the pose and stuff like this. I never knew session was English. I was bypass. I do Japanese in English. So this week I'm speaking in English and doing a stream on PST time. But the next week I'm gonna be doing Japanese, and then it will be switching back and forth between Japanese and English per week. So English this week, next week will be Japanese, the next one will be English, and those kind of stuff. Well, you can visually follow the videos and then guesstimate or like guess what I'm doing in Japanese or like what kind of stuff I'm talking about. But it will be basically the same workflow I'm doing for English streams. Most of the stuff I do is the same. Like I have a basic workflow, like making the rough shapes, smoothing them out, doing zero measure, and then sculpting the details and stuff. So for example, like this, you can see the topology is not really correct. Like this flow is going this way and it's gonna be this way and it's mess. So I'm gonna apply zero measure to get the flows correctly so I can like sculpt more easily. Hope in Japanese you can do in more lazy JP time. It's bloody 7. Yeah, like it's fine. Like I work in US time, or like specifically the LA time. So it's not really hard for me to do a stream on this time zone. So that's not a concern for me, so that's fine. Yep. Let me just project back the details I did and project history. Why are you changing the topo flow? Well, it's because it's like easier. So the sculpting itself will need to like rely on the actual base of the topology. So if I sculpt like this, it's gonna show up cleaner if the topology is like following the details. So for example, if I have a bit more like higher res, you can see the flow is like following the topology, right? But if I do something like, if I go against the flow like this, it's gonna have some like these kind of like jaggedness, roughness to the model, roughness to the sculpt. So it's better to like change the flow as you go along, and you can even project back the details if you like want anytime. using the project all features. So if you're not familiar with that, then like it's a good thing to learn. But if you have too much like high polys, like you can use Dynamesh, but like if you have too much high polys, and then it will be hard to like manipulate, or like then like if you have low resolution, it's gonna be hard to do the details. So it's better to have a good topology and then keep the subdivision levels, and then if you need to change it, then use ZBrush and project back the details and have subdivision levels, because it's gonna generate a more cleaner topology and it's gonna be easier to handle. So especially for stylized figurines, or like these kind of like anime models, you're gonna need a cleaner topology than the Dynamesh in general. Do every artist use base mesh? Well, technically you need a base mesh to sculpt on, so depends on what your definition is. Definition for base mesh. So if your if your definition for base mesh is like having a template for the template model for the character, yeah, most of the people who are working in the production will have a template or a base mesh they can work on. But that's because like they want a short amount of time, or like they need a short amount of time to actually do this stuff, and basically your anatomy will be like spot on, right, like from the get-go, and it should be fine. But like if you start from scratch, you have the flexibility. I prefer to do the flexible approach, but like if you're working for a company and then like that studio specifically has a template, then it's gonna be better to like work from a template. And usually those template has a clean topology in the first place, and then it's gonna be easier, or like some of the stuff are required to like keep that topology in the first place, because if you have a mesh that can't be like that can't use the same rig, it's gonna cause issues in the production. So some companies require you to use that specific template, so it depends. Like not every artist have it, but like most of the artists have a template so they can work from. And it depends, like if you're making a character model, it's basically a human, then it's better to work from a template. But if you're making a creature model, and then you need to be creative with your like shapes, then it's gonna like you can't really have a template for that, so you're gonna do it from scratch. I do game art. When I work, we usually go from clean base mesh. Helps to keep everything consistent and saves a huge amount of time. Yeah, and like those kinds of like templates help you establish a basic size for like the hands and the legs, which is going to be helpful when you're making a specific style of a character, or like style of a design. And then if every character has a big like difference between the anatomy and the size and the scales, it's going to be confusing, and it's going to be like distracting for the art style. So usually they make a template and style sheet they need to follow. And in some studios, they give you some like references to follow. and you can also collect your own, but the art director is gonna prefer you to follow those kind of like references and stick to those as well. So depends on what kind of stuff you're working. I usually make my own figurines, and like I don't really need to please anyone else, so I usually start from like scratch, and I usually start from a sphere. And like this model, I just started from scratch as well, so I just started from a sphere and like used Dynamesh, Zero Mesher and stuff like those. So yeah, some people don't really have a template, but I do have a couple of like datas I made in the past. For example, I think I made a hand brush. Yeah, I made something in the past, but I may not have put it in this version. Yeah, it takes time, but it's a good practice. Like, you don't want to do it all the time. Well, I do it all the time, but like it's a good way to practice and learn about anatomy and stuff. I always look at these kind of like anatomy models you can buy from the I think this was 3D Total. Yeah, and I painted this into like half brownish shade color, so I can see the muscles a bit more easily. The gray tone was like a bit hard to see, but you can watch this kind of like references and then think about anatomy and like find new stuff for each model. But if you're working from a template, then sometimes you're gonna lose those kind of like opportunities to learn. So depends on like, is it a practice or is it a way to like shorten the amount of time you're creating? It depends. I usually see my artwork as a practice, unless it's like for business purposes or like I need to make some figurines for someone else, which I usually don't. Like I don't really have the need to do that. So yeah, I usually see my figurines as a practice. So most of the stuff I just do it from scratch. Do you use lazy mouse? Can you explain all the factors affecting lazy mouse? Well, lazy mouse is pretty simple. Just look at this palette, you got all the stuff. Like if you mouse over a certain aspect and press Control, there's a note showing up in details. So for example, if I'm using lazy mouse and then move down the lazy step, it's gonna like put a dot in that specific like size. So so it's like a Photoshop brush. So you're stamping a detail like in like these kind of like points, and then if the lazy steps are really this more smaller unit, it's going to be more close together, so it doesn't really look like a stamp, but it's going to be like a line, continuous line. So this is the important one, and if you understand this, lazy smooth is like makes the lazy mouse effect stronger or weaker. Like you can read these texts and understand what it's doing. And like the second important one would be the lazy radius. Radius would be like, for example, this line is like just using 1, but if you're using like 25, like you see the delay between what I'm drawing, and then if it's more significant, like it's gonna take a bit more time to actually start drawing the lines. So what this does is that you like, if I draw something like this, like if my hand is like shaking for some reason, and like if I want to draw a cleaner line, it tolerates that kind of like shake, but like I can like gently draw a line like this, and then you can get a cleaner result. Like it's like putting a string on your pen, and then that string controls the actual line, and like it draws a detail on that like sculpt. I don't know how to say it. It's hard. So yeah, just read the text in the control key, and then you'll understand basically most of the stuff which is mentioned. It's not really hard concept. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's a lazy mouse. Like, what else can I say? Like, it moves lazily. So it, like, if you want lazy mouse to be more lazy, just crank up that lazy radius, and it will be more sloppy and lazy. What are your favorite figurine brands and manufacturers? I pretty much like most of them. Good Smile Companies, Alter, Kotobukiya is a nice one, and Vertex is a nice one as well, and Flare. I bought a couple of things from Flare. Wing is a nice one as well, and mostly they use ZBrush. There's a lot of like figurine companies I like, so it's really a hard question to ask. It's like, do you remember all the figurine companies you bought from? And like, there's so much. What is your favorite figurine brand and manufacturers? That's the question I answered. Okay. Then what is your favorite manufacturer or brand? I prefer the companies who has a good painting quality on their models. Some companies have like very good sculptors, but sometimes the paint job is like sloppy. I sometimes personally paint over them if I find one, but most of them are fine. Like recently, the quality of the painted figurines are really increasing, because the companies who are like painting them are getting used to those kind of like customers in Japan who are really picky about paint jobs. So yeah, it's getting better. Well, the price increased over the time. Like Japan really had a period where the $150 was a wall between, like, the very high quality figurines can go over that paywall, but like most of the figurine companies chose not to. But after some time, then like it's not really rare to see figurines that go over $300 or like $200, but the quality is worth it. Like the price and the quality are like going up really well. Yeah, it is a hefty price, and like when I see Western like customers or like Western people who are like into figurines, Japanese figurines, seeking one, the shipping price for them is like skyrocketing high. But yeah, it's kind of worth it, worth the price, I guess. There was a period in there was a period where you get the figurines, but it was really shoddy, but it costed like pennies, and then you had to do a paint over yourself, and that was the kind of the norm in the 90s, but it's not the same as now. So after 2000, after the like groundbreaking figurines, which was released by Max Factory, the Dead or Alive Kasumi was the one that like boost the sales of the PVC figurines, and that has a huge impact. And like there's a historical reason why PVC figurines got the hype or the fans they have now. Hot toys are the elite for me, but I wonder how it would turn out if they decided to make some anime style. Hot toys, I guess they did the anime styles in the past. I think it was Damn Toys, or they have a let me see if I have a no. I have a model, but it's hard to take out from the shelves. So if you search Damn Toys Gun High School, I don't recall if it's a Damn Toys or yeah, if you search After School Arena, you have a model which was done by a company outside Japan, which was trying to do a anime style figurine, and I think there was like 5 or 6 figurines they made. I bought 2 of them, I guess. It doesn't show up. Yeah, if you search After School Arena, you can find those kind of stuff. Do you know a cheaper alternative to 3D Total human-based figurines? Well, I think 3D Total is the cheap one and the quality one I found. You can find stuff on the like 3D printing data sites, but I don't really recommend them to be like accurate or like quality wise. Like, I think it's better to spend more than $100 to get a good anatomy model if you can afford it. It's worth every penny if you spend more to it. Like, your knowledge of anatomy will increase because of that, and it's better to have a anatomy book. Sculptors for anatomy would be the best for the book, but it's better to have it in a physical form, like a figurine. So yeah, get a good one. I don't think there's a huge like good alternative to all things. Like, I prefer paying a good one than getting a cheap one and then seeking another to get a like better alternative and then failing over time. I just need, or like I just want to buy a quality one and then get done with it without finding any like alternatives and spending time like looking for potentially a good one. And I prefer to buy quality ones usually. Like for example, my chair is a bit expensive one because I sit down all the time, but it's worth the price. So I sit down on the chair for like every more than 12 hours a day. So like I spend most of my like life on the chair, so it's worth every penny like spending on that chair specifically. And it didn't really break, or like it didn't have any like issues. I'm still using this chair for like 5 or 6 years, and the old chair I had was breaking after I used it for like half a year or like 2 months, I guess, and then it broke down. So buying quality stuff is sometimes good, or a better alternative in a way. I was talking to a friend the other day, and the subject was why do rich people buy rich things? And my answer was because it's worth every penny. Like, rich people don't really spend, well, sometimes they do, but they don't really spend meaningless money on something. So if it's a quality stuff that the producers or the manufacturer provides, they get all the benefits of like benefits from that, like from choosing that product. They don't really do bad deals in a sense. So some things are really like crazy expensive, but because it's worth it is the reason. So sometimes it's better to not to look for alternatives. Hey, おはよう。日本だと土曜日なんですね。おはようございます。 まあ、今回の配信はね、英語でやるのがメインなので、まあ、日本語はあまり答えていかないので、では、すいません。次週は日本語でやるので、そちらの方をご覧いただけると。Like talking and sculpting is not my specialty. I really lose track of like what I was doing when I'm like sculpting and talking. Recently, I found out that standard brush is really like nice brush to use for these kind of like cloth details. In the past, I kind of avoided using these because it was hard to control the surface. But with a couple of like simple strokes and keeping the strokes really simple, it's really a good brush for making these kind of like circular bumps or curves on the surface. So it's not really a crease on the model, but a soft transition in a way. You can't really do this in smooth plus the clay brush. Well, you can technically, but it's not really the same kind of like approach. And if your smooth is a bit lower than 100, it's gonna be effective. When you're making models for 3D print, do you concern about any overlay parts when sculpting, or do you check them after sculpt and get into preparing the model stage? Yeah, so for overlay parts, I usually just go through the designs, and then if I'm happy with the design, or like if I'm happy with the pose, and then I'll check for like compatibility issues or like the printing issues when it arises. But usually that's a later process than just, so it's a different process. So one is just focusing on the shapes. The second would be prepping or like checking if it's fine for 3D printing. Do you collect any 1 to 4 scale statues? Yeah, sometimes. I do have a couple of them. Like I have, let me count over my head. Like I think at least I have 4. And that's a lot for an average guy, but I'm not an average guy. Like I have 100 figurines, like close to 100 figurines in my shelf, so. my reasoning for like collecting those kind of like amount of figurines is it's really good for like studying purposes. Really, it's not really an excuse, but like it's really good for your like having a better understanding of like how the model is made and like how the facial parts is structured. So for example, I have a face lying around, which is this kind of like face. You can see the model, right? You can see it from the side. You can see the actual like constructed face and like the nose lines, and you can't really just check a photo and then like turn it around and check how it's constructed. You gotta have a physical like representation in your hand to actually understand how it's made. And like having a lot of these kind of like figurines will help you improve on like the understanding of like how it's made or like how the face structure is done. And I sometimes I get asked how to improve on the anime kind of like figurines, and I usually say just buy one. And like, do you have any? And like they are confused about that, and like they don't really have any figurines, and I'm asking like, why don't you have it? Like if you don't have it, like it's like sculpting an animal you don't really know that exists. It's gonna be hard, right? But if you have a cat in your house, and then if you like see them all the time, you're gonna be a master at making those cats and animals and stuff like that. Yeah, only one is the best reference, and the best one will be the expensive one. So you feel that you have like you have pain from like you're spending money to get something, and you want to get all the necessary stuff from that figurine, and if it's like it's worth that expense, you try to make that expense worth it. So yeah, don't buy cheap, like get a good one. Yeah, like the Prime 1 Studio figurines are big and really high quality, but the price is like it is worth it. But like you're not gonna buy all the figurines, right? So yeah, I did want to buy the Devil May Cry series, and I saw the price and like I was like, do I need to sell my kidney? Or do I need to sell my stomach or something like that? So yeah, if you like, for example, if you want to make a figurine, get a figurine, at least get one, get two if that's like affordable for you. But like it's impossible if you don't have a figurine and like to try to make one. So well, you can technically, but it's not really recommended. Also, I know a guy who works in figurine industries, and like he's constantly like buying figurines every month so he can study more, and like his sculpting skill is like phenomenal because he understands the trend and what kind of like style is like selling well, and like it really improves your sculpting capabilities when you understand it well. but if you don't understand it well, then like it's a shortcut, so it's better to have it. The May Cry one are awesome, but when the price start getting that high, I imagine I'm best in bed. Yeah, like, and it's fun. Like making figurines is always fun. I wanted to buy a big Titanfall Titans from, I think it was Hot Toys. And I didn't have the money that time, and it ran out of production. And I'm like regretting myself, but like I'm thinking, should I make one myself? It might be a good opportunity to do that. Mind letting me know who your friend is so I can take a look at his portfolio. Let me check. Well, really, he doesn't really have a portfolio because like Japanese artists don't really have ArtStation accounts and stuff. Interesting pose. Well, because she's in a box. She'll be like lying on a box of presents, or like some presents inside the box, but I'm like focusing on the cloth details and how I'm going about on the cloth itself. Did you start from scratch? Yes, I started from a sphere, in fact. So I started from a sphere, then I made the body, and then like extracted using masks, and then getting the basic shape done. That's usually my approach of like making the models. You can see the archives if you want. Oh, by the way, the figurine artist I was talking about is this person. his work is not really safe for work, I guess. But so like I warned you. So. He is using ZBrush, by the way. He used to be a freeform user, but he switched to ZBrush, and he's making phenomenal stuff. Where's the archive? I'm new to Twitch. Well, it's not on Twitch, so if you go to YouTube Pixologic channel, it's there. So there's a playlist, I guess. Playlist. Where can we buy your friends' figurines? You can go to AmiAmi to buy those stuff. Yeah, so if you go to YouTube, there's a playlist of my stream. Oh no, not this stream. There's a. No, wait. It's a different one. This should be Santa one. Yeah, this one. And you can go to AmiAmi if you want to buy some figurines. But I think he's like producing figurines mainly for Native. Native is a store by itself, so if you go to Native, you can see for those. No, talking about figurines, I was making a figurine for myself. Well, for my like personal work, and like I think I can show it on screen. Let me save this first. I was making a figurine which involves two characters, and because the character itself was like intertwined, and the model had really complex way to like split them, and like I was really spending a lot of like time thinking about how to split them. Yeah. So it's this model, and it has like so much like items that I need to think about. Like there's 54 parts with two characters, and like the hair itself was like this. Yeah, so you can see from the hat, there's like a lot of like details like this. So yeah, I was like spending my weekend just trying to think about how to split this part, and like my mind was boggling. like boiling, or like getting really tortured in a way. Like for example, like I had to like split the parts for this one, and then I need to keep the keys intact, and then I need to like split this part by itself because it's a different color, and then because the arms are intertwined like this, because it's going like it's crossing, so I had to split this like this, so it fits, right? But it doesn't like have a conflict to each other, and I had to do another split here again on the other side, and then you need to like consider it to like fit the neck, right? So there's like a lot of like parts involved, and like because we are doing a stream right now, I stopped my 3D print, but like I have a couple of results I think I can show. So for example, this was the body, and this was the head. I was able to split, and I didn't really do any changes on the model, so it doesn't really fit right now. And I didn't really remove the support dents, so it's hard to fit. But like you can see, it has the like facial parts and the actual like dents working fine. So this is just two parts I'm holding, and I need to do this for like 50, I think it was 54 I mentioned. So yeah, it was like I was spending a total of like 24 hours in 2 days just figuring out like how to split the models, and on the third day I was like doing stuff like over 27 hours, just waking up and doing work and like splitting the models and stuff like that. So And I spent the whole like week for just printing the models and getting the actual shape of the model correctly. So it's been a rough week. But it's really fun. Like, I really love doing sculpting and getting all the shape and like thinking about how to do the process and stuff. I may not be fast on this stream, but like it's because I'm talking and sculpting at the same time. But I really love to do more sculpting if I have the chance to do it. It's gonna be a kit and be sold on Wonder Festival in the upcoming February one, so it's on the next year. But yeah, I need to try to make it like make it a reality. So I need to sand it down and like actually do the painting as well. When you don't, the friction from the wall of the key rubbing against the wall of the keyhole will prevent it from fitting properly. Yeah, so I know, so I didn't do the tapers because like I'm gonna sand them down like anyways, and it's like it's tighter. So especially for Japanese artists, they usually don't prefer to have a taper, and they prefer to have a square or a really more solid kind of like structure, so it fits nicely and it doesn't come off really easily unless you're forcing it to do it. So my way of like splitting the model is always more or mostly just squares, and then sanding them down so it fits nicely. And it's gonna be nice when you just sand one corner, it has a space to just fit in. Yeah, so I usually don't glue it, so yeah. If I'm working for a company who makes PVC figurines, it makes sense to glue it, but like especially for my purpose, so if I go to an event, it's like you need to assemble it and then take and like deassemble it and disassemble it and then like put it back to a box and then shipping it back. So I usually prefer not to glue it down, and I wanted to like keep it flexible as much as possible. And for that purpose, I'm using a tension method, or usually using the magnet method. So I put some magnets with a circle hole and then snap it together with the magnets tension. So yeah, that's the way I do things. But if you're working for a figurine company, it's a different kind of like workflow. So for example, the head I showed you earlier on has a specific like key, so it fits on the neck side of the model. So these are these kind of like shapes are using the PVC's softness in mind. So it's not really compatible with like resin kits. Resin kits will be more physically harder compared to PVCs, but PVCs will allow you to like deform or like change shapes, and that's the huge difference between resin kits and PVC kits. So it's not really they have a different kind of like approach of like fitting models. So yeah, so I prefer to use tension and magnets if possible, and if not, then I'll do the tapering. And depends on the print itself, but usually the print and like swapping them with resin will make the parts smaller, so the keys will shrink in a way, and that's gonna naturally make a taper. And if you taper it too much, you're gonna have so much space that you can't really glue it down. So I usually prefer to like control how the tension is by sanding off the corners. You can watch a couple of like streams from Sakaki. He's like doing more specifically for those kind of like purposes, and he's more professional on this topic. So when you're splitting, do you work with presets or tension, or you make as it's needed? Yeah, I make. Well, I just use the IMM primitives, this one, and then I'm using QCube. Then if I need to insert this, like for example, oh yeah, so for example, if I have a mesh like this, just delete the subdivision levels. I go to I'm in primitives, go to depth, embed 0, and then like control the model as is, and then make the keys from here. And then if you need tapering, you can split this anytime, and then split parts, and then you're gonna have the gizmo right on top of the mesh, like this, right? And then you can go to tapering, taper, and then you can change the shape if you want. So this is not going to be an issue if you're looking for those kind of like solutions as well. So keep that in mind. And you can always like do the masking as well. So if you don't want to change the bottom part, you can mask. Well, not mask. You can, I think, hide, I guess. Hide. And then like mask it off. And then you can scale it like this anytime. And then you're gonna have a tapering like this. So it depends on what you're looking for. So these are really handy. And also, if you have a mesh like this, and if you want the skins to actually fit the model, you can always use the scaling. So select a part and then go to transform, scale, and then press Control and then change the size. And then you're gonna have a new polygon, right? Like this, just the smallest version of the model. You can move around this part. You can even change it. You can make it flat. Then you can split this by using live booleans and hitting the skin. So like the skin matches the shape of this, and then you can put some keys on top of it. So oh, this is unintended, but like you get the point. So you can do these kind of like things to actually get the shapes of the keys you want. When you're splitting, do you work for? Yeah, that's the one I answered. You can always make a preset of like making a tapered version, and I think I'm an actor who showed this ZBrush tips of just like making keys. Tips, ZBrush top tips, Iman. This one. Just watch this and you'll understand better like how to split the models and like key them. So this character is wearing a glove, so I'm using my like hand as a reference because I'm wearing a artist glove. You can always use some like poly paints to get the lines across and then apply masking using that information as well. So if you want some like, for example, I can do some examples. So if I paint them white and then if I select a color like red, for example, I can draw a RGB color like this. And then use this as a reference. And then if I'm happy with the line, I can go to masking, mask by color, mask by polypaint. And then if you go to this part of the mesh and then select that part, press OK, you're gonna get it masked right here. And then like for example, if you want a dent here, you can always use the scaling capabilities to actually get the shape you want. So you go to the center of the mesh and then do the scaling, and then you can get a line like this, and then you can just remove the color information and done. Well, this is low resolution, but you get the point. And you can use this color information afterwards. So if you're not really done with your glove, and then like you're concerned about like design changes, you can just put a red line like this, or like a black line, and then think about like applying those kind of like details afterwards. Well, you would need to do some polishing up anyways. So you just need to get used to the making the designs or making the shapes you want in the data, and then getting like understanding well how that print will be done, and then start from there, I guess. So some prints will have deforms because of how the print is like done, or like sliced or printed, or how the resin works and stuff like those. So you have like a lot of like random factors, but understanding each one, how the things work, and how may affect the print will be a good way to understand well how you need to make the actual data. So some 3D print models or some like 3D printers will have deformations because of how the resin gets off from the surface of the resin. So it's gonna be pulled, and because of the pull, you're gonna have deformations on the model. So like for example, if you print a cylinder and then compare that to an actual cylinder, you're gonna have a deformation with that pull, and you're gonna have a like scaling in the y-axis and stuff. So it depends on each printer and how your printer is working. So and even how the resin is like mixed in the first place. So if your resin is like in a cheap cheap resins usually have a huge deformations, and like I prefer not to use them, but like it depends on like what kind of like printers you're using, and those kind of like stuff might affect how the print outcome is like done. So those kind of like stuff really affect the actual outcome. You can always like print a bunch of like primitives to understand how the printer will handle those kind of like shapes. It's close to my end of the stream, so if you have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna try to answer them, but I need to join a couple of meetings right after this stream, so. Does this figurine company commission freelance artists, or did they hire full-time artists to do the sculpting? Well, depends on the company, but like usually they do hire freelance and they do hire full-time workers, but they require a different kind of like skill set. So for example, if you have a freelance worker making figurines, and like if the data they send needs some like specific fix, or like they need specific tweaking, they'll send it to like they hand it to a the full-time workers, and then sometimes they do polishing as well. So and usually they are like tasked with different kind of like stuff. Freelance workers can't really do specific work for like months in end, because like they don't really have the time to actually do just one. They would need to do several artwork at the same time. So they sometimes can't just focus on one stuff, but if they are full-time workers, then they can focus on one task at a time. So there's a couple of benefits, pros and cons of like hiring or like being able to work for a company like that. But the industry in general, you have more freelance workers than the full-time workers who are doing figurines. Usually, the artists who are full-time workers are asked to do a lot of like general stuff other than just like making sculpts. Like sometimes you need to do planning as well. Well, some companies split that totally, but you need to go to like clients, you need to go to the license holders to actually get the feedback on stuff, or like manage other like digital artists and stuff like that. So that's kind of like your task if you're working for a full-time worker. Well, working full-time. Freelance artist doesn't really need to deal with those kind of stuff. You're required to do a figurine, and then you need to provide that figurine. That's all you do. And like figurine companies want to like build products as much as possible, so they will use freelance and full-time workers at the same time. So it's not just like 100% free time or like 100% like full-time and stuff. No, it's not like 100% freelance, 100% like full-time workers. It's like a mix. I like sculpting gloves for some reason, but let's end our stream here. And I think I'm gonna do some sculpting outside of the stream, so I can finish this before Christmas at least. But yeah, it's gonna be this. It's gonna be the same like process, like just sculpting, just doing slight fixes to the model, and I think that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna show any new fancy techniques outside of streams, so you don't need to worry about that. When do you bend the figurines and they penetrate the inside of the hand? Do you keep the fingers on a separate polygroup? Yeah, it's better to have a separate polygroup, or you can even, for example, use topological masking, like this. For example, this is isolated. So how you do it is you go to move, or like the 3D gizmo thing, and then press Control and drag on the surface. Then you're gonna have a mask that follows the topology. And then if you use the masking feature to group it, you're gonna be able to isolate this finger. So like if you have the usually you do it for the armpits, like this is really common. Like you do it for the fingers, you do it for the neck, and I think you have the leg fingers as well, so it's really for these kind of like uses. And like, for example, I have a intersection in like I can't really fiddle this part of the mesh, but if I flip it, if I use the display properties, flip the mesh, I can see the inside, right? So what I can do now is go back a subdivision, use the smooth brush, and then like tweak the internals. The smooth is like weak, but like you get the point. Like you can adjust this by flipping the inside and like the outside, and then you can go back to the normal version and then get the correct version of the polygon sides, or like the normal flip normals, I guess. Yeah, so the correct version of the normals. So you can do that as well. So yeah, the mesh, yeah. Also, you can use the smooth tangent option inside. If you go to the smooth brush modifiers, and then if you press shift, and then if you go to the, I think it was tangent was 7, creased edge, yeah, 8 is tangent. You can go to 8 and then do the same thing, but works more effectively. So you can do that too. So where can we find more of your work online? I post it on ZBrush Central, so if you're interested, you can go to ZBrush Central and then look at my work there. My ID is Pixologic Daisuke. And you can go to the galleries and just check what I do. So for example, if I go to the galleries, you can see my past models like this. You can go to the actual colored version I showed. You can go to the rubber suit model I did in the past. Oh, different one. Oh. Yeah, so you can like watch those kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna end my stream here. So hope you enjoyed. See you next time. So I'm gonna do a stream in Japanese next week, but the week after that will be English, and I'm gonna try to end my Santa model there. So I'm just doing the details after the stream and trying to get the shapes done. So it's basically the same workflow, just sculpting, just sculpting. Yeah. Oh, additional thing, like if you have a conflict of like the mesh and you just want to push outside, you can always use the snake hook or the move brush with the auto masking feature and back face mask. So if you enable this, you can always just push it one side. So Like for example, if I disable the backface masking, it's gonna move both sides of the mesh like this, so it's like changing both sides. But if I do backface masking, it's gonna be like moving towards this side. So it's moving this, but not this. So you can use that as well. So there's a couple of ways to do it. Okay, so hope you enjoyed. Bye. Thank you for watching. No. I can't press the button for some reason. Bye. Why does it not end? Come on. Oh boy, I need to kill the stream.